Maybe I'm just too British, but these clips make my skin crawl.
They are probably just having a really hard day.
Yes.
And I am putting out a movie.
Stay graceful and ignore the hate. Hello.
Americans have always been more naturally complimentary than the British. They're really good at hyping people up.
Both of you are just like quintessential beautiful souls.
First of all, nobody could have done it better. It's your voice. You're just a powerhouse.
Give an award for most expressive eyes in Hollywood, it would go to you.
Yesterday, I was watching the film and I was in tears every time you opened your mouth.
The problem is Hollywood has taken that to the extreme, where they have a toxic positivity problem. No one's willing to criticize anyone or anything.
Rachel.
Oh, Andrew.
Rachel.
Oh my God. Andrew.
This is a massive problem for their shows, which never get criticized when they're made, and the actors whose egos get ballooned through the roof because everyone is telling them how amazing they are all the time.
Because you're in my favorite movie of the year.
You're in my favorite movie of the year.
It's no surprise when you're getting your ass glicked this often that your ego goes through the roof. And as everyone around you has a consensus that you're amazing, there is no one in Hollywood or outside it that can tell you the truth, because that would make them an arsehole. That would make them the arsehole. What
you've done is just so stunning and soulful and authentic and genuine and real and like totally, you know, reinvigorating this classic thing in your own way, and I am absolutely just weirdly proud of someone that I've never met.
I'm so happy to be meeting you. I cannot even believe those words just came out of your face towards my face.
You're not going to believe them because it's just one person seemingly attacking you for no reason. Everybody else you know has told you how amazing you are, and that one guy over there, he just wants to bring you down.
You are Snow White. You are canon Snow White at this point in my imagination.
He's the only one saying this horrible stuff to you, so clearly he's wrong. The problem is, in the Hollywood example, that one person is the audience.
It's because all of the people were angry. Like,
those people.
Very much this, yes. It was this
people
awakening
that we need
of...
to educate, the people that we need to love into awareness.
Love them in the right direction.
And if you're not able to abstract and only see the world from your perspective, that will lead you to despise the audience. And because it's their fault, that makes you free to attack them.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business. Thanks.
Have a little manners here, sir.
Cosmopolitan did a magazine shoot with Rachel, and I don't know who decided to put the cover together, but I have to be... You did her dirty on this one. I mean, seriously, she looks like a AAA video game character. Don't mess with Rachel Zegler. If she looked like that all the time, nobody would. There'd be no glicking going on with that. Rachel bounces in a casual strapless dress. Probably for the same reason that I can have strapless t-shirts. I'm really not sure why we're talking about it as if that's prestigious. Rachel has emerged as one of the few actors in Hollywood who doesn't seem afraid of their own personality. She's become well known for staying true to herself, for saying exactly what she wants to, and speaking up when the moment calls for it. And at no point has anyone wondered, yeah, should she though? No one in Hollywood came down and told her to shut her gob. Because no, it's so proud, it's so brave, it's so amazing that you aren't afraid of your personality, even when your personality could strip paint.
Big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. I will elbow everyone out of the way to play the part. Weird, weird.
In bygone eras, you'd be called out, shamed, and humiliated. Everybody you know would get together and just tell you the truth, and you'd improve. In a toxically positive environment, though, no one will, because if they will, they're the only person doing it, and then they're not going to get a job. Maybe you go ahead and get on a new movie, and they've pissed you off, and now they don't get hired on that movie. Everybody in the world responds best to incentives, and no one is incentivized to tell you the truth. Let's say that you carry on, speaking out, not being afraid of your personality, and then don't get any jobs. You burn your career. Well, now there's just more jobs available for everybody else. It's a good job they didn't correct you. People will say you're changing the world. You're actually going around making sci-fi safe for bloods. Which I don't know if it was this headline, but somebody actually used that word. And before you know it, you start thinking that you can represent an entire culture and society. All because nobody told you to shut up.
Childless cat lady.
If everybody was, you might internalize it, realize you're the problem, and change as a person, rather than trying to come up with excuses about how horrible the other person is, and so your behavior isn't your fault. Even in Cosmo, they're like, give an example of when you hid last summer. Why? Because the internet was raging about something beyond my control. Like what roles she accepts as a job. She was just getting glicked out of her mind and couldn't stop signing the contract. I struggle to think what other circumstance that could be, but here we are. You got cancelled? It was because I was Polish. Because I had Polish skin. There was a lot of harassment from a certain group of people. That means not my fault. It's the problem of the certain group of people. The Polish. It is funny whenever I call a Polish, I always get comments from the Polish going, we don't want to, we're not taking that responsibility. And then it's really weird when she talks about people showing up at her apartment, which is clearly out of order, but also excludes pretty much everybody that was talking about it. So we're going to take these couple of lunatics that would show up outside someone's apartment, and then we're going to project that onto the certain group of people and claim they're just all the same. Protects my ego, and everyone in Hollywood says I'm amazing. Couldn't be me. And it seems like she did almost take the criticism on board. Were you responding? Well, I want it, that's not a good idea. But then eventually to realize that she was beginning to be the problem and beginning to believe what people were telling her about herself, and then to put my ability to bounce back from that and still be passionate is something I admire. That, you know, it almost got through. I almost realized that I was the problem, but I can bounce back from that. No one who gets licked this often could possibly take criticism on board. I can bounce back from anything.
Maybe some mercy's in order.
These dogs deserve nothing but our boot.
I tell you what, this article really does make you realize that photography is everything. I mean, just take that picture and then compare it to those pictures, and you're like, you wouldn't even believe it was the same person, let alone that picture. It's like a jump scare. So you're like Tom Cruise, they said, after she talks about how she went underwater for Snow White. That's just like Tom Cruise there.
My dear, you should learn to be admired in silence.
Even replies with underneath, what's your favorite thing about yourself? Please tell me how amazing you are. I have the resilience to know when to hide and rebuild myself. Notice it's just rebuild the same thing, not improve. But after entirely misunderstanding all criticism about Snow White, I suppose when you hide it gives you a lot of time to delude yourself about how horrible those people are over there. I think people are really seeing performers as non-human. Kind of. That's actually true. And it's also perfectly normal. It's the same thing with anything. Television, movies, music, YouTube. You're not really a person when you make a video. You're doing it for entertainment. The person watching the video wants to be entertained or learn something. They're not there to listen about your problem. They've got their own pissing problems. And part of the idea of being good at it, at being professional, is knowing that difference and knowing you have to make it entertaining or interesting. You should know your place and your role in that job. Otherwise, they just leave and go somewhere else. As they should do. It's idolize it. Oh my god. I hadn't read the answer when I was answering. This is literally the opposite. Even if she said objectification, it would have been closer. You're an actor making a movie to entertain me. Now dance. It's the only reason that you exist in their world. If you're not doing it, they'll complain or just go somewhere else. But you're like idolization. Oh, they bow down to me as their superior. They realize how mighty I am. They look up at me on the plinth they've placed me on and be like, you must be perfect, oh master. Even in her own response to the criticism, you still have the narcissism, the ego.
This carpet is a person with feelings.
Idolization instead of humanization. It strips us of the ability to make mistakes and have control of our own narrative. You shouldn't have control of your own narrative. You're saying something and other people are responding. You don't get to control your own image. Maybe this is a throwback to Hollywood, where before the internet, they actually could control their own image because there was only a few magazines, a few news things. So as long as you controlled a very small element of media, you could control people's perception of you and basically create a false image of yourself. You can't do that anymore. You're on too many things. People can see so many interviews.
I'm a white Latina. I hold a lot of privilege. It falls on my shoulders to open up the doors for the people who, or they're disenfranchised.
Do you speak the language? Does it matter?
Does it matter?
Do you eat the food? Does it matter?
You have a way with words.
No.
Word vomit.
Everything you do is broadcast to the world. And so you lost control of the narrative. Now, people want authenticity. They see you authentically what you are. They can tell. But it strips us of the ability to make mistakes. No, what they want is for you to be professional. They expect you to fulfill your role in your job. And your job is to entertain. That's it. It's not your job to be a person open publicly. Any problems you have in your private life should be in your private life. To you, your world is the biggest thing in the world, but it isn't to everybody else. Now, there is an element of if somebody is beamed into your home and you spend hours a day watching somebody one-to-one in your own home, then people can feel like they know you better than they actually do. This is entirely unrelated to the first half of the paragraph. I show up to the set, I show up on the show, I'll do my job, but that's where the job ends. No, it isn't. I don't have to maintain appearances of being... I have no idea what that word means. Apparently means an innocent or unsophisticated young woman. No, seriously. How even in your complaints do you manage to be so insufferable? This is like a superhuman skill. I really wish this was a video interview because I have a feeling that this sentence would be peak cringe, as the Zoomers say. So I show up on the set, I do my job, but that's where the job ends. It isn't, because you're in the public eye. And so everything you do is also in the public eye. It reflects on you, and you reflect on the roles that you do. It's one of those things where you can do something in private, and that's fine. But if you bring that into the public eye, well, now it affects you publicly. Part of your job is managing the perceptions of you, and that's what you mean by control of your own narrative. And you're like, no, I should be able to control my narrative and do whatever I want. But when you say, I don't have to maintain appearances of being ingenue, how do you even pronounce that?
Ingenue.
Bless you. You're pretentious and a narcissist. Congratulations. It's a double whammy. I don't have to maintain appearances of being ingenue. I don't have to pretend to be innocent and unsophisticated. You think you're sophisticated? You do realize that being sophisticated, part of sophistication is that people like you. What sophistication is defined at has a cultural bounds within it. It's tied to it. Because you're sophisticated within a culture. It should make the people of that culture like what? And as for anything else, I don't have to do this. Yeah, but do you think it'd be a good idea for the future of your career, love? I don't know if you've had the experience where people expect you to be on 24/7, want to chat and have a conversation. And I'm sorry, love, but this entire conversation came about from you got cancelled for what you said in Snow White, and you've started using the excuse of, I shouldn't have to talk to my fans in the street. What has this got to do with you being an arsehole about Snow White? I don't understand. Well, I mean, that's a great video, Cosmo. What's she doing? Setting fire to her career? Oh, she's burning a rose. She's a massively popular movie star. I'm sure there'll always be someone that takes her. Even if she did say that she wants a child to grow up to be a genetic dead end. That was particularly impressive. Well, for some people, it's the job. It is the job. This is a get used to it kind of moment. People say that's what you signed up for. It's like, no, I signed up to make movies. She might as well have just come out and gone, F the fans! This is part of making movies, you insufferable cow. I mean, your social reputation is how you get movie roles. You only get paid a lot to make a movie because you're supposed to be liked enough by a large enough amount of people that they go to the movie to see you because they like you. If they don't like you, they don't see your movie. There's a whole element of people think that you should separate the art from the artist. This is not true and has never been true. People seem to think it's axiomatic just because they learnt it when they was a kid. But what that statement means, you can separate the art from the artist, is that if somebody makes great music or a painting, them being a complete arse doesn't make the painting or the music any less beautiful. This is different when it comes to movies, because movies are affected by the people that are within it. A writer and actors instill that movie with their own values and messages. They instill them with part of their personality. They become part of the movie. A script will have very different values in it depending on the values of the writer. Things like equality versus hierarchy. The hero's journey is only capable of being told in a hierarchical perspective, because the hero is better than the villain. In fact, the hero is the best of everybody else. If he was equal to everybody else, he wouldn't be a hero. So no, when it comes to some genres of art, it's completely reasonable for your dislike of somebody to affect the art. If you don't like the actress, seeing her on the screen will repulse you, and that's a good thing. I didn't sign up to be a plastic doll for a bunch of people to pull apart, and yes, you did. You signed up to act and do whatever you were told by Hollywood. This is part of the gig. You don't just perform on stage, you perform off stage, if you know what's good for you. Those interviews are a performance. They don't have to be if you're a good person. But if you're a complete cow, yes, you should act and pretend you're not.
At the end of the day, this is a story of representation, and it matters.
Weird.
Everybody's first comment to you is like, Twitter's not the world, babe, just move on. How many people call you babe in the world? Why is everybody calling you babe? And I also don't really like this because Twitter is just comprised of people, and those people are in the world. So it is representative of a section of the world, at the very least. Well, when it's not being censored, obviously. And it's like, well, my dog is scared of cameras because people used to walk outside my building. What does that have to do with you being insufferable? My dog doesn't like cameras. Stop feeding them to him then. I mean, I think there's an upside happening here here, which is the amount of toxic conversation cancels itself out. No, the toxicity is coming from inside the house. It's the people you talk to that tell you, just ignore it. Just ignore the comments of the audience, the people you need to get on side.
You are Snow White. You are canon Snow White at this point in my imagination.
What it sounds like, and I'm just guessing here, but it's because, quite frankly, they called you babe. I think that this is a comment that you get from your boyfriend. And so you venture out, say something stupid, and all the internet, all the audience that you need to get on side, tell you what a horrible person you're being, and then you go away, and what did you say you do? You hide. So you go away, lock yourself off from the internet, and hide in your own house with your boyfriend, who then calls you babe, says that you should ignore the criticism and just move on. And then what do? Well, now, because the dominant ideology in your house will be him, the consensus of everybody involved will be him, and also people in Hollywood who are very happy to go around glicking people, and you use that to reinforce your ego, to bounce back. And because that's protected your ego, now you're proud of yourself. You admire yourself for doing it, despite the fact that it's actually a bad thing to do for your career. Not all criticism is equal. Sometimes you should ignore criticism. Probably shouldn't do it if it's your entire audience, especially if it keeps happening through your career in every project you do. At some point, you have to think, maybe this is me. Maybe I'm the problem. And it also doesn't help when you have people like this saying, actually, I think it's a really delightful time because nothing matters but the work. This is the work, though. This affects your work, and it should be affecting your pay packets. Actors that destroy their own audience should be getting lower pay packets. They should be getting less jobs because they're now not attracting an audience into the cinema. They caused the death of the movie star. To the point where now, if Tom Cruise is in a movie, I'll probably see it. If Keanu Reeves is in a movie, I'll probably see it. That might be it, though. What I do love is that Rachel is very aware of how people use quotes about her. So when they was like, you want your character to die early on and move on with your career or stay there for the whole season? He goes, the whole season, but I would love to die. That's the pull quote. Rachel Zegler says, I would love to be deleted. That article would get some clicks. She is right. So then she met Lady Gaga and apparently is a massive fan. And at some point she came over to talk to her, blocked her light. And as Rachel was unable to form words, Lady Gaga just said, I know. I don't know where we've seen that before.
I love you.
I know.
She said, I know? I know. It was awesome. I tell you, those two egos meeting is like what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. And I think Rachel's main problem is that it doesn't actually matter what she thinks. She can have all her ideas about what she thinks she signed up for in the role or what is and isn't a part of her job. The job doesn't care, though. If you destroy your audience base because you're being insufferable to them and think that they don't matter, the audience will make themselves known and companies won't hire you. It really is do your job or they'll find somebody who will. The days of Hollywood not having to care if they offended the audience are over. They need to make a profit. And for that, they need the audience. And Snow White isn't a cheap movie. It cost $269 million. That's without marketing. And you think you can go out and alienate the people that money comes from. I do think one of the problems in Hollywood isn't just the toxic positivity, the false consensus effect that they have in the industry, but also it seems like the relationship between actor and the audience has been severed. They seem to think their money comes from the movies rather than the audience. I think this happened because their pay packet used to be, well, you know, you've got this audience following you from movie to movie, you've got this many followers, etc., and so we'll pay you this much. But then as all the actors took controversial opinions and sliced off parts of that audience, the pay packets didn't go down. They realized they could offend the audience as much as they want. Their movies could bomb as much as happened. They still got paid. Their money came up front before the movie happened, rather than at the end when everyone's seen if it's profitable or not. This led them not to care, because they realized they didn't need to. The incentive wasn't there for them to care. And that's what needs to be reinforced in Hollywood. That you have to care about the audience when they're saying things like your comments are unhinged and that you're a liability. I'm not taking my kids to see this trash after the statement you put out. I hope the film bombs at the box office and streaming. Hollywood needs to reinforce the incentive structure. That you want residuals? Great. Yeah, that'll be your pay packet. And you only get residuals when the film's profitable. Now you better really get that audience on side, because if you don't, well, they won't see it and you won't see a penny. The best way to people to behave in the correct manner is to tie it to incentives. And people have tried to fix Rachel Zegler. They've tried to come out with puff pieces from Variety about, I've watched people get torn down the whole life because they don't have dangly bits. Can't be my fault. It must be the way I was born. This is something she seems to have internalized to protect her from all criticism. That you just hate me for things I can't control, rather than for it being my personality and the things I've said. Like, she literally said it in this interview as well. The internet just hates me for something outside of my control. This wasn't the only time Variety tried to improve her public appearance. She also did this video with Halle Bailey where it was just both of them glicking each other for 40 minutes. After 41 minutes, they definitely thoroughly got glicked. That seems to be the attempt to control the narrative, as she said earlier, which she's realized she can't do because she can't control her own mouth. And there is no amount of articles or videos that can make people like you unless you change your behavior because you've realized you're the problem, which she clearly can't do. Interestingly, I did look into Variety, who are owned by Penske Media Corporation, who have a whole ton of media brands under their belt, like Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, TV Line, various award shows, Rolling Stone, Golden Globe Awards, although that's under my face. And then you find out who the president is, and it's George Grobar, who spent 13 years at the Walt Disney Company. So he went from working for multi-billion-dollar corporations to being president of a media company that reviews the same corporation that he worked at. Maybe that explains why they're so happy to try and reinvigorate the image of actors. It's all the same people involved all over the place. Some people say it's not what you know, it's who you know. And it seems that via Disney, Rachel Zegler has connections to all of the right people to get articles like this written, but it still can't save your career if you're not even willing to do a little bit of introspection. And for that to happen, Hollywood would have to drop the toxic positivity and get back to a more masculine industry, where people just get told the truth, that if you want to succeed in the industry, you've got to act like a successful person in the industry. And when you're getting paid millions, you think it wouldn't be that much effort just to try and appear nice in front of the cameras? You know, someone meets you in the street and you try and be nice to them. But according to Rachel, that just isn't even a part of her job. Which might be why at just 23, I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't have that long a career. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe, more videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.